Welcome to the Two Chumps Football Podcast. He's Emil Calamino. I'm Chad Wilson. It is a post AFC NFC Championship weekend. We are still 1 week later, Emil, still trying to figure out what Dan Campbell has against kickers. Jeff Bagley, I don't know what you did in the building, but why he pretended you did not make it to the game, we will discuss today. And then, are you ready for a Swifty Super Bowl?
Ooh.
The memes that are currently running throughout social media about the referee and the NFL's love for the Kansas City Chiefs is just absolutely hilarious. I'm finding it funny. And then I'd love to know why. You know what, Emil? We do need to discuss why some people are so bent out of shape about Taylor Swift in her connection with the NFL now. She might end up on the logo. All right, we have Jerry West for an NBA logo. We might have Taylor Swift doing the swag surf on the NFL logo. We'll talk about both of those games and maybe dabble a little bit into the Super Bowl that is to come. However, our big pick and show for that comes next week. So, Emil, which one of these games do you want to tackle first?
Let's start with the Chiefs game, and then we'll move, because I think the other game it was a weird game, the second game. So I'd rather just talk about the Chiefs game.
I think there's more issues to tackle in that
second game. Well, there's a couple in the first game. I mean,
Can I just say this?
Yeah.
I have this that I really want to get off my chest. I had to fire it out in a text to my brother Danny probably during the last few minutes of the Baltimore Ravens game. But I've got this to say. I am over quarterbacks being changed once they get to the NFL. Emil, it really pained me to watch. First of all, the game plan by the Ravens offensively was a little curious. However, it really pained me to watch Lamar Jackson dropping back and literally being at war with himself about what to do back there. Do I want to sit in this pocket and please the masses that say I'm a runaround quarterback and that I can't throw and I'm not accurate and I'm not the prototype NFL quarterback, and then the instinct to take off and run and gut the defense? He's a guy that likes to please people, obviously. I've noticed that throughout his career. And he's morphed now into this athlete that wants to do that above the very instincts. All right. So I am over that. I wish that Lamar Jackson would just drop back and do what comes naturally for him. What I would love to see the Ravens do is, how you teach a pocket passer progressions. All right. Mm-hmm. And here's what we do with regards to distributing the ball versus a blitz, et cetera, et cetera. I would love for the Ravens to realize you don't have a prototype pocket passer. This is not Peyton Manning. This is not Tom Brady. So with regards to reading a defense, which is the essence of playing the position, we're going to set some different rules. When the team brings 5 in terms of a blitz, here's what you're going to do. X amount of reads, then go. If they bring 6, you're on that first read, and then you're looking for a lane to go. If they're bringing 7, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but all build rules into everything that they do where he can take off with the football. If X happens,
why would you diminish one of his greatest skill sets? Like, why, if you're an offensive coordinator or a head coach of a guy like that, why would you take that skill set off the table? That only he's probably one of a one. I mean, I'm trying to think of somebody else in the league. I mean,
that can run like that presently?
No,
that's it.
No,
it's him.
And I mean, he's almost like, would you say very similar? I mean, I don't know, speed wise, Michael Vick.
Yeah, I would say maybe in his heyday, Michael Vick was a touch faster.
Yeah, but I'm saying very similar.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's quicker.
Right. So I mean, like, why would you take that skill set off the table for the defense and basically
because the narrative
chain him to the pocket?
The narrative is that pocket passers are who wins Super Bowls. And it may actually be true. But as we know, this game is evolving. So why don't we try and move with that and see if, hey, a player like this can actually win a Super Bowl. And you know what, Emil? If he doesn't win a Super Bowl, Do you know how big of a category he falls into? One of the best throwers of the football of all time, Dan
Yeah.
Marino, didn't win one. That is not the end all and be all of being a quarterback. Sure, that's what gets you a gold jacket and all that. But man, play ball. Him standing back there and falling back 15, 20 yards was driving me insane. On top of that, I didn't see a whole bunch of designed runs. Man, a quarterback sweep. Did you notice how much the Chiefs blitzed? It was
You have,
disrespectful.
well, first of all, let's unpack your first thing. You have correlation probably without causation. There's been more pocket passers. This is a new phenomenon in the last 15 years, probably, where you've had more guys that can run with the football. Generally, those guys were the outliers. So you have a bigger sample. So of course you have more pocket passers today. The game's a lot different, right? And to your point, the receivers let them down too. Obviously, the key play in that game when it was over was Flowers. First he gets the taunting penalty. Then they come back from that. He makes the catch. It's going to be 1st and goal at the 1. So it's not like it's a desperation play where you got to stretch the ball.
No, I think if he dove the way that he dove while covering up the ball, he would have been in anyway.
Oh yeah, he would have, but he didn't. He held the, as my father used to say, he held that ball out there like a loaf of bread. I mean,
Indeed, he did. I have been more on that. Not to get off that topic I just dropped. I'm more of the thought process of that was a great play by Ladarius Sneed, one of many he's made this year, to have the wherewithal to go throw his hand in between Flowers' hands. I'm not even sure that he saw, because it happened so fast, that he saw Flowers stick the ball out like that. I just think he was going in there.
Yeah, oh yeah. Listen, it was
punch, whether it was secure or not, and he just happened to put
it was a great play, but that was essentially the end of the football game. I mean,
but Emil, there was so much wrong with what Baltimore was doing up to that point that that was, I don't want to say irrelevant. Sure, it would have gotten them back into the game, but I think if the game would have went to overtime, I think the Chiefs would have won it. The Chiefs just seem more in control.
What bugs me too? These the sports media in our country, creates these negative statistics because they know that a player or a team is popular or will get clicked. Give you an example. When Tony Romo was playing, right? Do you remember the 3 years in a row where Dallas was 8-7, and the last game of the season they either played the Giants, Eagles, or it might have been the Redskins at the time. 3 in a row. They had to win a game to get in the playoffs, and they created this statistic like, in win or go home games, Tony Romo's 0-3. Right. Well, first of all, you and I have talked about this. Those Cowboy teams were horrible. Without Romo, they wouldn't have even been in those games. They weren't good teams. So the new statistic, and I'm not saying they should fry Lamar for this. I'm saying Dak Prescott's 2-5 in playoff games. Well, Lamar Jackson's 2-4. So you know me, I like statistics. I go to Football Reference.
Right.
I look up Dak 2-5, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in 7 playoff games. Quarterback rating 91.8. Pretty good. 280 yards a game. Lamar 2-4, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 75 quarterback rating. 210 yards a game. You don't hear people.
You got to add in his rushing yards too, as well, to that.
Whatever. My point is, all I'm trying to say is that I'm not saying they should do either one because football is a team game, but the media loves to go after, let's do Dak. Well, I don't hear anybody saying
he plays for the Dallas Cowboys.
Right. Nobody's saying let's trade Lamar. But
the thing there is it's the Dallas Cowboys. I'm a New York Yankees fan. A failure by a Yankee batter or pitcher is times 10. The
guy I know, the Yankees, the guy just saying sports media creates a lot of this. Like, I was kidding your brother. Chad's brother, for our listeners, is a 49er fan. So I said, hey, Nancy Kerrigan, you know what hasn't happened since 1995? The Cowboys haven't won the Super Bowl since the 95 season. But what hasn't happened from before that is the 49ers haven't won since 94. The media doesn't tell you that.
Quite frankly, I hadn't thought about that until you
said. But they got there. Okay.
They didn't win it, though. Yes. But yeah, like getting back to Lamar, Emil, I watched Steve Spagnuolo towards the maybe mid-third quarter. just endlessly blitzing over and over. It was, as I'm saying, disrespectful. It's the kind of thing you do as a coach when you just don't think that other team can do anything.
Oh no, I
And
noticed that too. And I was going to ask
bringing
you,
the house.
what would you, let me ask you, what would, as a defensive coach, which you did, if you were bringing blitzes like that, what would have been, other than hitting a slant or something quick for 70 yards, what would have been something Lamar could have did with his skill set that would have stopped them blitzing?
If you don't want to bring tight ends in because that would signal to the defense that you're doing something different, you can bring a good blocking slot receiver, tighten his split down, make it look like he's going to run a route, some kind of crossing route in the middle, snap the ball. See, you have to have this play in your playbook if you have a quarterback like this. Seal the edge rusher because you're trying to bring pressure up the middle. Seal the edge rusher. Get Lamar outside of that. All of that pressure up the middle has now gone into the backfield as he's exiting the backfield. Get around in the alley, gut him for 30, 40 yards. I'm thinking twice the next time I try to bring all out pressure. Do it to me twice, and I'm not
So basically what you're saying is run a quarterback sweep.
take off.
Take off.
Because as he gets around that corner, everyone's back is turned in coverage, and he can run for as long as he likes. He can run forever. And me in that situation as a defensive play caller would be really hesitant to blitz like that again. Now
I got a geek question for you. Wait, stay with that thought. Okay, so you're bringing that receiver, a good, a guy who can block, a slot receiver. What's the technique? And I know some of the listeners might not understand why I'm asking is that you teach the receiver now to not get called for a crackback on that end who now turns and realizes, holy hell. So, like, how does the receiver just screens him, basically? What do you do?
No, he can get into him because here's what's going to happen. As that edge rusher sees Lamar going wide, he's not going to go at an angle into the backfield. He's going to come up the field. That means you're not going to get his back as the receiver. You're going to get his side because he's not running away from you. So let's have the receiver like this, where if he was drop back passing, the end would go and take off at this angle, right?
Yeah.
If he sees Lamar coming this way, he's going to come up the field and try and cut him off. It makes all I need's a piece. I just need a piece. Knock him off. You've seen the chip blocks.
No, I know, but I'm saying they took away I'm not talking about an illegal block. They took away a block that used to be a great block where you get a guy face on, but he wouldn't know, almost like a basketball pick.
No, and you don't run a guy. I know what you're talking about. You don't need to deplete him.
Just crush a guy.
No, you don't need to deplete him. You need to just stop his ability to get out.
So you just need to catch his shoulder, something where he can't catch Lamar.
That's it. And we know the quarterback that we're talking about, which is why I'm suggesting this for this quarterback. I wouldn't suggest that probably for any of the other 31 quarterbacks. Get him outside, get him in that alley, and let him take off. And even if one guy leaked out, I've got confidence that Lamar can beat that guy to the sidelines and get a 15, 20-yard gain. A couple of those, and now as a coordinator, I got to go back to dropping into zones, and that's when Lamar is a good passer. He can throw it into a window you left open. But when you ask him to make a precision throw on a DB that's on the wide receiver's hip, that's not his game. You've taken away what he does well and ask him to do something that he doesn't do. You're taking away a 10 skill and asking him to execute a 6 skill.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't have to have watched football as long as we have to know that, you could watch Lamar throw and he just has a quirky throwing motion. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a sling kind of thing. Even on deep balls, like he'll miss on them. And I'm not here to bang on that. He's a good runner / passer. He's not an A+ passer. I don't think I'm offending anyone when I say that. And I think at this point, when you get all the way to the NFL and you've been playing this position for a certain way, let's not try and turn a running quarterback into Brady, Manning, Marino. He's not that. Let's make him a really great version of Brady.
No, I mean, it's actually counterintuitive to even I don't understand the thinking of why people do it. It'd be like saying, let's take Dan Marino when he came out of college and make him Fran Tarkenton. I mean,
exactly. I mean, you don't do this at any other position with any great amount of success. I don't take middle linebackers and bring them into the league and be like, we're going to make you an edge rusher. It's not something you normally do.
Let's pivot to the Chiefs because it seems like to a degree, we're making this more about the Ravens' failures, and they did fail, and I feel your pain because watching that game, I'll admit I was rooting for the Ravens. I made a pick on the Ravens, but I was rooting for them, and watching their offense was frustrating me. But I think you said something to me during the game that's important to remember. Kansas City, and you didn't say it this way, but I'm going to say this part. You know, obviously, this is Captain Obvious here. They're the Patriots now.
They are.
They're the Patriots. This is
They
their
believe.
fourth trip to the Super Bowl in 5 years. They've won a couple of them. They've taken over, and the league is kind of constructed that way because the rules tilt so far in favor of the offense. If you have a guy who can run an offense precisely, and like a Mahomes or a Brady previously, you're going to win a lot of games in this league.
Sure.
That's where they're at. But you said something that, you know, the other team hopes they can win.
Right.
The Chiefs believe they will win.
We've done this before.
Yes.
And we won the trophy. We keep coming here. We've had so much success in these situations. Well, this is kind of what happens. It's almost we're on autopilot here. This is our time of year. This is what we do. When we play these games, we win. The Ravens are trying to get over the hump. Is this our time? Is this our year? Can we do it? And so you could see that playing out mentally during the course of
And
it.
underrated in all this is at some point people have to start to realize this. Andy Reid is Bill Belichick like.
Offensively,
I mean,
most definitely.
just as a coach, let's think about this, right? Well, he was with the Eagles, right? I think he got to 4 NFC championship games. He finally won one of them and then lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots. He's taken the Chiefs now to 6, if I'm counting correctly. That's 10 conference championships. This is his 5th trip to the Super Bowl. And if they were to win, that would be 3 Super Bowls. And, you know, you look at Andy Reid and the pivot he made this year. And I said to you earlier, I was stuck with my image of the Chiefs was stuck in midseason, Scantling dropping the winning touchdown pass that hit him in the face mask, essentially,
Right.
and the hands against the Eagles. But I think Reid, being a really good coach, said, here's what I have this year. I have a great quarterback, a great tight end, a great offensive line, a capable running back, and bad wide receivers. But what most of us missed this year, even though the statistics told us otherwise, the Chiefs have an excellent defense.
Mm-hmm.
Not pretty good. I mean, they gave up 289 yards a game. They shut you down. So Andy Reid pivoted. It's like, okay, I'm not winning.
Did you see what he did offensively coming in, when he came out into this game? We're going to run the football.
Yeah.
I'm going to shorten this game. I'm going to find the little spots, the chunk plays where I can. I do have a really good tight end. I'm going to stop relying on my wide receivers. Case in point, they left Kadarius Toney home. I like Kadarius Toney, but he's just not been right. So we're in a crucial moment in our season. You've shown us to be, up to this point, not very reliable. So not only we're not throwing you the ball today, you're just not going to, there's another area where we might need a guy. And so you've proven yourself not to be reliable. You don't get to play in this game. And that's how I treated the guys that were actually there. I'm not throwing you a bunch of balls, Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's a signal of he understood, he watched, and that's where fans have to remember. The NFL is a marathon season.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the first 10 to 12 games, as Bill Parcells said, come and see me after Thanksgiving. I'll tell you what kind of team I have.
Sure.
So you figure out what you have just, you know, in the NFL, and then you adjust during the good teams, the great teams, adjust to what they're good at later in the season. So you can't necessarily, I don't want to say count it, it counts, but you have to adjust your thinking as a fan to what you're seeing as the season progresses. Forget what happened in September. They're not the same teams anymore. And Andy Reid showed himself to be a great coach because he said, here's what I got, here's what I'm good at. And he figured out a way, and he's winning, beat the Dolphins 26-7. I'm not going to win games 34-17, 37-20. He beat the 17-10. He beat the Bills 27-24. It wasn't really a high-scoring game. They made a couple plays at the end. There's a couple chunk plays on each side, but different Chiefs team this year.
Emil, you own a business, I own a business, and we're probably being viewed by many people who own businesses. Is this not what you do in business? You do things, you test it, you get the data, you get the numbers, especially when you're talking about marketing, with the with amount of data you're able to get nowadays when you advertise, whether it's with, you know, Facebook or it's Google or whatever, you get that data back and you look at it and you say, okay, these ads aren't working. Let's do these ads. We get them out. Okay, these ads are working. We're going to run more of these ads. That's football. Football is very much alike. These plays are working. These guys I can rely on. These guys I can't. So we back burner these. We don't run these plays as much. We don't throw to this guy as much. We don't hand this guy the ball that much defensively. We're not really this kind of team, so we don't run this defense. We don't play this coverage as much. We play this one more. And that's essentially what
And
he's
you know
done.
what? I think more than the other two. I mean, I'm not a hockey guy. I'll watch a couple the end of a good game, but so I'm not going to use hockey. The three sports that I know, baseball, which I love, football, and basketball, as opposed to baseball and basketball, where I think football is more like that, is because there's 22 guys on the field at once, it's very hard for just one player to dominate the game, other than maybe a great quarterback. So what you're saying, especially at the NFL level, you can't out-talent most teams in the top 15. Sure, if you're the number 5 team, number 4 team in the league, and you're playing the 32nd team, as long as you kind of show up that day, you should figure out a way to win. But generally, the NFL, the talent's close, so it's going to be about adjustments, playing right at the moment. Baseball, you know, let's be honest, you can out-talent people. I mean, basketball,
but even there, it's the same type of deal.
Sure.
How you use the bullpen. Like, this
Sure.
guy's not good in this situation. How many times can a closer blow a game before you say we're gonna use another?
How many times can you bat Aaron Judge first?
Right, exactly. Right, you know, all of any successful sport business,
Yeah.
you are analyzing yourself, and I think the greatest coaches are the ones who constantly self-scout. I think after every game, you have so many guys you're employing. You take your flunkies and say, hey, look at the last game, beat us. Where are our holes? And then
Well, that's the key. I always say the best teams that I've seen in my life, the coaches always went out and said, "How would I beat me?"
Self-evaluate. You have to. And
I mean, how would you do it?
I'm not in the building, but it seems he did exactly what it is that you said. How many passes? You know what? I'll tell you.
No,
I'm going to give you the numbers right here. I could look right here and tell you how many targets these other receivers had, because you do bring up a good point. And I'm looking at it here. Valdez-Scantling, 2 targets. The guy who got the ball off his face. And I feel bad for him. We saw him be upset after that. They threw the ball to Pacheco 4 times. He gets the ball in his hands. He's going to catch it, and he's going to get you yards. Somehow Noah Gray got 5. But you know why that happened? No one's expecting Noah Gray. He's not going to draw coverage. Right. And who do you rely upon in this situation, who's been there before? Travis Kelce, 11 receptions off of 11 targets. That's money. That's money. You went to your money, guys, in this situation. You know where that comes from, Emil? That comes from reaching the NFC Championship 4 times and only getting through once. That comes from the failure.
Well, yeah, he learned his lessons, and that's another sign of greatness. The greats adjust and understand, you know, where they own their mistakes. They don't make excuses, and they say, "Here's what I did, and I know I screwed this up, so I'm not going to do it again." The Ravens, I think, underestimated, and what's underestimated in this game is, you know, their receivers, just somehow they have to get more weapons there. I mean,
sure, but if we're staying on theme with what we've just talked about, they should not have been relied upon as much as they did. So Todd Monken, offensive coordinator, you're constantly dropping back, asking your quarterback to find these receivers that aren't there yet, or they may never be. The matchup was not there for them to be beating that Chiefs secondary with any amount of regularity, allowing you to put drives together. Who else were you relying on? Andrews, who just came off of an injury. You didn't use Isaiah Likely, who had been really good. Your tight end that stood in for Andrews. You didn't use that guy as much. And you took away the biggest weapon you had offensively, which was your quarterback's leg. So to put a bow on this before we move on to the next one, I think the masses out there has made the Chiefs the enemy. They're now the new Patriots. We're tired of seeing them win. We're going to, you know, they're the darlings of the NFL, as the people said about the Patriots. Everyone wants to see Taylor Swift. The referees are for the Chiefs. You guys are going to have a really rough time over the next few
You
years.
notice how the referees were always for the Patriots, they said too. So you notice the theme here. There's a common theme.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That just goes. So we're just going to have to deal with that. All the calls went their way, and they'll individually pick out calls. Let me tell you something. Throughout an NFL game, there are a ton of busted calls if you want to look for them. And for the Ravens, man, this is a tough mountain to have to climb again. You had a really, really great season. You definitely had the feeling that this was your year. But if there's an organization that can reclimb a mountain, I think it's them. It's just going to be really tough for them to do that.
All now
right,
let's slide over.
NFC.
See, to me, the second game is easier to break apart because it's real simple. It was a game of two halves, right? Obviously, one team dominated the first half, one team dominated the second half. Chad and I
got to address the elephant in the room right off the bat.
It is. It's the only thing to address in this game because
this is near and dear to your heart because you talk about it all year long.
Well, first of all, I've said all along, right? I think there's two kinds of coaches in sports. There's builders. There's guys that can motivate and take something really bad that was crap and turn it into something good, okay? But then there's some guys get stuck there. Some can get you to the next level. I'll use a case in point for our older fans. Remember when the Bulls were building their dynasty, Doug Collins was the coach.
Very good coach.
He was a good coach, right? They got Jordan, they got Pippen. Then I think Horace Grant came along. But at some point, Reinsdorf and the organization said, Doug's good. We don't think we're going to win anything with Doug. We think he's going to get us to right here. So they went out and got Phil Jackson. The rest is history, okay? Say what you want. So I think Dan Campbell, and I'm going to give him another year to hope that he does an Andy Reid and reevaluates. He's starting to fall in that category for me. Guys play hard for him. Guys love him. I was very suspect in Dallas when they ran the first two-pointer. It got called back because they announced the wrong guy. He didn't stop anybody from doing it. It got announced to the whole stadium, and all he did was complain. And then instead of saying, okay, well, let's kick the extra, he wasn't some slap team this year. They were a team that played in the NFC Championship saying, go to overtime. Time to go for it again. Goes for it again. Intercept in the end zone. Penalty on Dallas. Okay, at that point, you go, I'm going to kick the extra. F it, I'm going for it again. At that point, I said to you, this guy doesn't understand risk reward. He doesn't understand how go back to business.
You know what happens if he wins that game?
He's home.
The game happens in Pontiac. Is that,
Well, perhaps because the 49ers, remember, tanked the last game of the year and didn't play anybody against the Rams. So we don't know. But yes, there's a potential that the game ends up in Detroit. Bigger point here is when the score is 24-10, there's about 9-10 minutes left in the third quarter. He's got what in NFL terms is a relatively makeable 47-yard field goal, something like that. And he goes for it. And Reynolds drops the ball. It was a tough catch, but a catch he normally makes. We texted each other. I said,
we couldn't wait to text each other.
He's going to regret that, okay? Because anybody who understands, especially the NFL, a 3-score game changes everything. You kick a field goal there, the 49ers play calling has to change. They can't be as patient with the running game. They got to think 3 possessions, 3 stops on their end, 3 scores offensively to tie or win that game. You got to make that a 3-score game. I don't care what the geeks.
Here's the thing, Emil. Even if you score a touchdown, it's still a 3-possession game. It's just the fact of having to get a ball kicked to you, put together a series of plays to get into scoring position or get into the end zone. You've got to do that one extra time in a second half where the time's going. And by the way, your running game is working awesome.
182
so you can get the ball back and shorten the game.
Right, 182 yards. He didn't manage the game. That's exactly it. He had a running game that was dominating. He could have squeezed the clock. I don't care what I don't care what Greg Olson says and the statistics say you should go. Take your spreadsheet and shove it so far up your you-know-what.
You're in a pressure moment.
Yeah,
What did I text you too, by the way? At halftime, I said the 49ers are going to get 5 possessions in this second half, of which they're going to need to score touchdowns on at least 3 of them to get the lead. They're going to need to score touchdowns on 3 of them. Now, they came out and kicked a field goal. All you had to do, they came right out of the half, went straight down the field, kicked a field goal, which I thought was great by the Lions, given how that drive started. You held them to 3. All you had to do was go down there, equal that field goal, and put it right back to where it was at halftime with 4 or 5 minutes off the clock. Now you start feeling this. And really, the pressure was on the 49ers, was it not? The pressure's on the 49ers.
They missed that, the 49ers got the ball, went down the field, the stadium's rocking, it's 24-17, the Lions get the fumble, now we're tied, right? Yeah. So now, and you could say, well, one has nothing to do with the other. I kind of think it does. Momentum changed.
Yes.
The 49ers scored, the fumble, the defense was invigorated. So they get the turnover. The game's tied. 49ers now get the ball again, score. Now the 49ers, I'm trying to set the fans up. It's 27-24 at this point. There's about 7.5, 8 minutes left in the game. And Dan Campbell's staring at another 47-yard field goal. I don't care what Greg Olson tells me. I don't care what Burkhardt tells me. I don't care what the spreadsheets tells me. You got to tie the game. Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm with you. I'm definitely with you. I thought that was less egregious, but still, yeah, I would have done.
You got to. Campbell said, "Well, they were
happen, Emil. Here's what I think happened. Dan Campbell is going a whole bunch off of feel. I want my players to feel a certain kind of way, and if I decide to kick a field goal here, I'm suggesting to my team that we are not mighty. I'm taking their confidence away. I think that's how he was playing this mentally, because you can tell he's a guy off of feeling, and we're trying to change a narrative, and we are the mighty Lions. And
they changed the narrative during the effing.
I don't think logic came into it. Was all emotion. You would love in that situation to have maybe 35-40% be emotion, 60-65 be logic in that sense.
And did you hear his explanation on that call? He said, well, if I tie the game, I was worried they were going to bleed clock and win it. Listen, if they take that football and run the last 8 minutes off the clock,
you didn't deserve to go to the Super Bowl.
You tip your cap. If you can't get a stop or make them at least listen, they're either scoring and giving you the ball back. Chances are, if they score, you're getting the ball back. If you don't get the ball back, you didn't, like you just said, you didn't deserve to go Super Bowl.
Well, that's not really exercising any amount of confidence into your defense either by saying that. So
now that was, you know what that was? That was a guy who realized, and I'll tell you what, there's 3 screw ups, okay? Because there's a third. It got Chad the win, by the way, okay?
Oh, going for it and actually making it?
At the end of the game,
in my mind, I was screaming, like, what the?
He got the right result for Chad and the gamblers out there with the wrong reasoning. The score is 34-24. He's got 3 timeouts. There's 1:10 left. He's 4th and goal on the 4-yard line. You need 2 scores. If you miss the touchdown, the game is definitely over. Deady. So you gotta kick.
Actually, Emil, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this, given the situation with the amount of time left, the moment he entered field goal range, he should run the kickoff team. I mean, run the field goal team out there, kick it, and then go for the onside. So you've got.
He had 3 timeouts. So here's the right play is exactly what you said in my mind. If I'm looking, I need 2 scores. My only chance is 1:40 left. I got 3 timeouts. I kick the field goal. 34-27. The minute I get down to like the 20-yard line, where if the kicker misses it, I leave him in San Francisco and make him find his own way. Okay. Then I go onside. If I get it, great. If not, I've got 3 timeouts.
I might get some time back with this.
I might stop them at the 40, and they're not going to kick a 57-yard field goal and give me the ball at midfield. They're going to punt it. Hopefully it rolls into the end zone. I got 1:10 left, no timeouts, and I'm on the 20-yard line. Yeah. It's your best chance. You have to extend the game. So when he went for it, I'm saying, oh God, Chad's going to win this with this guy, because this guy just really can't. He just doesn't understand math. It's simple math.
I don't think he operates that way. And listen, we can take off on him, till the end of time. He will question that forever. In his mind, he probably feels he's right because he's not operating on the mind scale that we are, which is logic. He goes on emotion. That's what he is. That's how he built this team into what it is, off of emotion, which might lend itself to what you said. Okay, emotionally, this guy has changed who the Lions are, we might need to call someone in. It's like this starter was great for 7, 8 innings. He's not going to win the game for us in this 2-1 game. He's getting tired. We got to bring someone in from the bullpen. It might be that, unless Dan Campbell can go against everything that he is. All right. We see him at that podium. You know he lifted weights already that day. You can tell what he is. If he can do a really big self-reflection and say, hey, I either need someone or I need to really delve into this in the offseason and make myself better in these game management situations to where it's not all emotion. I do need to use some logic so I don't put my team in this situation. Again, one of those two things has to happen. I get someone to help me to be in my ear in these moments and say, hey, this, or I get better at it myself. You might want to play some video games. That might help.
Listen, the older fans, you remember Barry Switzer was a great college football coach, right?
Yes.
I mean,
I
was in the vet, okay, in 1995. Now, this is a Cowboys team that won the Super Bowl eventually that year. Won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. One of only 2 teams to ever do that. They were 4th and 1 on their own 29-yard line. The score was 17-all. He went for it with Emmitt Smith. Now, we're talking that team was a lot more dominant than this Lions team.
Right.
The Eagles accidentally called timeout and stopped the play. Okay, so now you go back to the sidelines and you say, I'm going to bring the punter out. Barry ran the same play.
We got a job to do, and we're going to do it, baby.
Yeah, the Eagles essentially just turned around, kicked the field goal, won the game. My point is, there's guys that just don't get it. Now, I'm going to watch the first month and a half next year and see if this guy has some sort of, like you said,
the situation will come up. We'll know what he did.
Because Staley, we talked about it very early with the guy who got fired in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Yes. You could see that this guy basically had a calculator in his pocket, and it said 52.4% says I should go for it.
And I'm running with that.
23.
I'm going to do this. I'm not deviating from that. Whatever. That's great, man. Maybe there's a high school where you can go dominate. Some high school in Arkansas where you could just really roll off 67 wins in a row. This is the NFL. The talent is even. You can't do this. And guys are there for a limited amount of time. So the Justin Herberts or the Bosas of the world don't want you dicking off their chances, if I could use that term, while you experiment with whether or not this will work at this level. So I hope for Dan Campbell he's able to do that. I have my doubts because, you kind of are what you are. It would be great if he did that. And we did say,
well, listen, I give the guy all the credit. We spent 15 minutes, castigating the guy, but I mean, I give him all the credit in the world for what he did with the Detroit Lions. I mean, he took over, arguably one of the 2 worst franchises in the last 30 years, along with the Jets. I mean, if there's 2 franchises that were the epitome of, I can mess something up, it's the Jets and the Lions. And I'm not saying mess up like the NFC Championship game. I'm saying mess up like we're going to win 2 games this year. Okay.
I know you had a pick. I know you had a pick on the 49ers.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a part of you that said, hey, something that has not happened in my lifetime could possibly happen here? Did you root for that at all?
Oh, when it was 24/7, at that point, I was like, let the Lions go to the Super Bowl. Wouldn't that be cool? I'm a Cowboys fan. You think I have any love for the 49ers?
Yeah, I'm fearful now, Emil. And we could just talk about the comment that Dan Campbell made to his team afterwards, that this sadly might not happen in my lifetime, the Lions in the Super Bowl. He said this might have been our one shot at it. Emil, it's such a mountain for them to climb back up again. And it's going to take such a certain amount of mental strength for them to climb it, get back to that situation right there, overcome what happens mentally. You had a 24/7 halftime lead and it didn't happen.
I have my theories in sports on this, and they kind of goes like this, right? For whatever reason, organizations that have traditionally won across, I'm talking 100 years, it permeates in the building, right? The Yankees, for whatever reason, because Mickey Mantle's been gone a long time, so is Joe DiMaggio. There's a feeling that permeates that damn it, we're the Yankees, okay? Or damn it, we're the Lakers.
Right.
Damn it, we're the Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't matter, okay, because there's been enough winning historically. So to the point we have fun with my Cowboys because they get to do this every year, disappoint us. My point is they're usually pretty good every year. They're there. I mean, they're usually in the mix. So when they
Yeah.
disappoint us, that's what people love twisting a knife to a guy like me is because every year I get disappointed. That's not the case with teams like the Lions. Last example was the Atlanta Falcons. They were an absolute shit show before Dan Quinn got them to the point getting to the Super Bowl with Matt Ryan, and they had a 28-3 lead famously against the Patriots, blew it, lost the game in overtime. They've been, pardon my language, a shit show since then, okay?
Right.
The Lions, like you're saying, 1957 when there was 12 teams in the league was their last 12 teams.
Yeah, man.
It was like Pop Warner football. 12 teams, they won a championship. 7 years later, they still haven't sniffed one until this past week, and I think that's hard to overcome.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough mountain for them to climb. It's going to be interesting to see if they can do that. And then you have to climb the mountain in the regular season. You've got to get to that playoff game again and fight whatever demons come into your head, even if you have a lead. It's a tough ask.
Well, and the other point is, to your point, you know, typically the challenge for really good teams that are there every year, like the Ravens, they got to get motivated in the regular season. But generally, the organization's done enough winning that they can figure out how to cobble together enough regular season wins to get to the tournament and then turn it on. But when you're not a winning organization, if you go out with that attitude, a lot of the old habits start to creep in.
Of course. Yeah,
and you don't even get to the
luxury of doing that.
You don't even get to the tournament.
Yeah, and to be honest, look, even some of what we said happened in that first game happened here in this second game. The 49ers had been there before and had success and got to the Super Bowl. So a part of them believed down 24-7, man, we could still win this game and get there. We've been there before. And the Lions were, we've never been here before. Are we supposed to have a lead like this in the game? You know? So yeah, Dan Campbell made the decisions that he made, but then Josh Reynolds starts dropping the football and then a series of other things uncharacteristic to the first half of the game started happening for the Lions, and that just all added into the pot to end up with the end result that we had. So,
and their road, let's be honest, right? We don't know. I mean, we all suppose Green Bay will be a lot better next year because they should be. Well, taking that out of the equation, because, you know, sitting here at the end of this season trying to guess what young team is going to step up and be good, you know, next year is an exercise in futility. But here's where the Lions gets tricky for the Lions. They've built this team with a whole crap load of first-round picks from being bad.
Right.
Now they're going to be drafting 28th, 29th, whatever it is. You know, they have a Jared Goff decision, and they got to pay him. So, yes, he was making really good money, but now, you know, you're talking about he's going to be a $50 million quarterback or something like that.
Sure. This is where coaching is going to have to really be good. So I think one big win for the Lions is being able to keep Ben Johnson for another year and not send the team, the offensive part of this team, through massive changes. You come back, you tweak things, you've got a guy for another year. Obviously, if they have another good season, win 10 or 11 games, Johnson will probably be out of there. But that's a good thing for the Lions because you are going to have to rely on coaching. You are going to have to develop your talent. You are going to have to bring in your mid-rounds and then find free agents that are going to need to contribute to the team, because you are going to tie up a good amount of your salary in your quarterback, and you're not going to be able to keep some of these guys that are going to reach the end of their rookie deals. So coaching is going to be a part of this thing. Now you're in the fight that everyone else is in. And like Dan Campbell said to his team and in the press conference, we're not going to be hidden anymore. We're going to get teams' best shot.
Well, it's much harder to be, you know, and this is, you know, it's a cliche, but it's much harder to be the hunted than the hunter.
Yes. Oh, sure.
The New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Lakers, listen, I don't care if those teams are bad, mediocre, good. Guys, circle it on the schedule.
You just
We're going to Yankee Stadium for a 3-game series in June.
Yes.
I want to sweep those guys.
No doubt. They could be 72 and 95.
Yes.
But in your mind, you're beating the
Yankees.
1998 New York Yankees. So
yeah, you're seeing that emblem. And, you know, the Lions get to sneak up on people because of all the fun we had talking about how bad they have been. But that now people aren't going to, you know, you're not sneaking up anymore. Hey, Lions were in the NFC Championship game last year.
Yeah, we need to play a real game today.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it for us here. Of course, Super Bowl next week, so Emil and I will have our picks on that. I don't know if we want to do a quick wrap on last week, kind of tell people where we are. Do that.
Oh, sure.
Neither
Well,
one of us
I don't
will.
really want to tell anybody. My playoff season started off so good, the NFL. First week, I was 3-0, riding high. I haven't won a pick since, folks. I've made 5 picks since that first week. I'm 0-5. Okay.
It happens.
Yes. Chad was 1-1 last week. He did have a great pick on the Lions. It seemed to be the right side the entire afternoon. So I kind of making fun of Campbell's decision, but in a way,
It got me in through a back door, and we
cost
didn't get a
me.
push.
It cost me, but you deserve to win that pick. We were both wrong on the Ravens, but for the Super Bowl, next week I'm going to give our statistics for the whole year. We'll break it down. We'll break down the game, and we're going to give you our pick on the Super Bowl. We're going to break the game down from a fan's perspective, me, from a coaching perspective, Chad, and see if we match up on how we're seeing this matchup. Right now, we just checked before the show because neither one of us paid attention for obvious reasons. We wanted to just see how close in our own mind the line was. And the 49ers are a 1.5 point favorite right now. They opened up, believe it or not, they opened at 2.5.
It's going to be interesting to see where that number is when we pick next week.
Well, obviously, so far the money's come in on Kansas City as an underdog, and I would expect that because, frankly, if you had me hang a number on that game after Sunday, I would have given you Kansas City -2.5.
Yeah,
I thought
kind of odd that the 49ers are favorites, but we got a week to prepare and dig into this thing. So like Emil said, he'll give it to you from a fan perspective. I'll put my coach hat on and we'll see where we are with that. So with that, we're out of here. We've given you our thoughts on championship weekend, and Emil and I'll go, figure out what's going to happen in this big one next week. And we appreciate you guys checking in with us all season long, as well as today. So we are hoping you're enjoying all of the football action and all of the referees. Love the Kansas City Chiefs memes that are out there. They will be in full.
Switch from the Patriots to the Chiefs. They're Chiefs
it has
now.
It has. All right. So for Emil Calamine, I'm Chad Wilson. Thanks for listening and watching the Two Chumps Football Podcast. We'll see you guys next week.